I didn't start this because I believed in a miracle. I started because my mother, at 74, looked at me one Tuesday morning and forgot my name for 7 seconds. It was just a pause, a flicker, a moment where her eyes went somewhere else. And then she came back, laughed it off, said she was tired. But I wasn't tired. I was terrified. I did what most people do. I went down the rabbit hole of expensive supplements, brain games, and programs promising to rewind the clock. And some of it helped, around the edges. But the real shift didn't come from a pill bottle or a crossword puzzle. It came from a grocery bag, specifically from watching a friend of mine, a neurologist I deeply respect, pick out produce for his own father. He didn't grab the exotic superfoods from the Andes. He grabbed a handful of blueberries, a bunch of kale, and a pomegranate. When I asked him why those, he didn't give me a sales pitch. He gave me a physiology lesson that changed everything I thought I knew about aging. He said, "We spend billions trying to force signals into the brain. We forget the brain already knows how to listen. We just have to give it the right language." That is what we are going to talk about today. Not about eating fruit because it's healthy. That's too vague. We are going to talk about eating fruit to speak a specific chemical language to your neurons. We are going to look at 7 fruits, not as food, but as neurological signaling devices. We need to interrupt the common narrative here. Most people think the brain declines because it wears out, like an old shoe. That is not accurate. The brain doesn't just wear out. It gets quiet. It gets inflamed. It loses its ability to communicate with itself efficiently. The real enemy of the aging brain isn't time. It's chronic low-grade inflammation and oxidative stress. Think of oxidative stress like rust forming on a wire. The wire might be fine, but the rust stops the signal. The fruits we are going to discuss are not just antioxidants in the vague sense of the word. They are specific compounds that act like chelating agents for that rust, clearing the line so the signal can pass through cleanly. To understand how a piece of fruit can affect your memory, you have to understand one core scientific concept: the blood-brain barrier. This is a selective filter, a gatekeeper that decides what gets to enter the elite neighborhood of your central nervous system. Many things we eat never make it past this barrier, but certain compounds, specifically flavonoids and polyphenols found deeply pigmented fruits, have a molecular structure so precise they are ushered through this barrier via specific transporters. Once inside, they don't just sit there. They initiate a cascade. They activate enzymes, they signal repair genes, and they stimulate the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. BDNF is essentially fertilizer for your brain cells. It encourages growth, strengthens connections, and protects existing neurons from injury. So when we talk about eating fruit for brain health, we are talking about engineering the internal environment to grow stronger, more resilient connections. Now let's walk through this countdown. We are going to start at number 10 and work our way to the master regulator, the number 1 benefit you get from incorporating these specific fruits into your daily routine. Each of these steps builds upon the last, creating a physiological symphony inside your skull. 10. The microcirculation factor, fueling the capillary network. When we think of brain blood flow, we think of the big arteries, the superhighways of blood delivery. But the aging brain doesn't usually fail because the superhighways collapse. It fails because the side streets, the capillaries, begin to thin out and weaken. This is called cerebral microbleeding or capillary rarefaction. The fruits on our list, particularly those rich in proanthocyanins, like cranberries and certain grapes, are potent protectors of these microvessels. These compounds strengthen the basement membrane of the capillaries. They act like a sealant, preventing tiny leaks that cause microscopic damage. Over time, these tiny leaks add up to cognitive fog. By reinforcing this microcirculation, you ensure that every nook and cranny of your brain tissue is getting the oxygen and glucose it needs to fire properly. It's not just about how much blood gets to your brain, it's about how deep it penetrates. 9. Heavy metal mobilization, the gentle chelators. This is a controversial area in mainstream wellness, but the physiology is sound. We are exposed to low levels of heavy metals, aluminum, cadmium, lead, through our environment, water, and food. Over decades, these metals can accumulate in neural tissues, acting as neurotoxins that disrupt synaptic transmission. Certain fruits, specifically those high in pectin like apples and citrus pith, the white part, act as gentle binding agents. Pectin is a soluble fiber that passes through the digestive system. As it travels, it has a unique molecular structure that can bind to certain heavy metal ions, carrying them out of the body through elimination rather than allowing them to be reabsorbed into the bloodstream. Furthermore, compounds in berries have been shown in some studies to actually help mobilize metals from tissues so they can be excreted. This isn't a dramatic detox. It's a slow, steady housekeeping process that reduces the toxic burden on your neurons over the long haul. 8. Gut microbiome modulation, the vagus nerve connection. We cannot talk about the brain without talking about the gut. The gut-brain axis is a bidirectional communication highway, largely orchestrated by the vagus nerve. The health of your gut microbiome directly influences your mood, your anxiety levels, and your cognitive clarity. Fruits are prebiotics. They are the preferred food source for beneficial gut bacteria. When you eat a diverse array of fruits, particularly those with specific polyphenols like the L-tannins in pomegranates or the fiber in pears, you are selectively feeding the bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids, SCFAs, like butyrate. Butyrate is an anti-inflammatory molecule that not only heals the gut lining but also enters the bloodstream and signals the brain to reduce neuroinflammation. This entire cascade starts with the simple act of eating a piece of fruit. You aren't just feeding yourself, you are feeding an entire ecosystem that in turn produces chemicals that calm your brain. 7. Autophagy. Activation, the cellular spring cleaning. As we age, our cells become garbage dumps. Misfolded proteins, damaged mitochondria, and metabolic waste products accumulate inside our neurons. This gunk interferes with function and is a hallmark of neurodegenerative diseases. The body has a natural process for cleaning this up called autophagy, which literally means self-eating. It's the cell's way of taking out the trash. Certain compounds found in fruits, particularly the dihydroquercetin found in citrus and the resveratrol in grapes, have been shown to upregulate the genes responsible for initiating autophagy. They trick the cell into thinking it's in a mild energy crisis, prompting it to start cleaning house. By clearing out the intracellular debris, you allow the neuron to function more efficiently, almost like defragmenting a hard drive to make the computer run faster. 6. Neurotransmitter protection, shielding the messengers. Your brain operates on chemistry, dopamine, serotonin, acetylcholine. These are the messengers that allow you to feel pleasure, stay calm, and form memories. These neurotransmitters are fragile. They are easily oxidized and destroyed by free radicals. For seniors, protecting the existing supply of neurotransmitters is just as important as producing new ones. Fruits with high levels of vitamin C and anthocyanins act as potent antioxidants, specifically within the synaptic cleft, the tiny gap between neurons where communication happens. By scavenging the free radicals that would otherwise degrade neurotransmitters like dopamine, these fruits help to extend the lifespan of these crucial chemical messengers. This means your brain doesn't have to work as hard to produce the same signals. The communication becomes more efficient, more sustained, leading to better mood stability and sharper recall. 5. Acetylcholine preservation. The memory molecule. Let's get more specific. One neurotransmitter, acetylcholine, is absolutely critical for memory formation and learning. It is the molecule of attention. Many medications for cognitive decline work by preventing the breakdown of acetylcholine. Nature has its own version of this. Certain fruits, particularly apples, contain a compound called quercetin. Research suggests that quercetin can inhibit the activity of enzymes that break down acetylcholine, similar to pharmaceutical drugs, but in a much gentler, more nuanced way. By slowing the breakdown of this vital neurotransmitter, you effectively extend the window of time your brain has to encode a new memory. You are giving your brain more time to take a snapshot before the chemical film degrades. This is not about creating new memories. It's about giving your brain the time it needs to capture the ones you are making. 4. Cerebral edema reduction, drying out the fog. Have you ever felt like your brain is wrapped in cotton? That sensation of slowness, of pressure, is often linked to low-level inflammation, causing fluid imbalance in the brain, known as mild cerebral edema. The brain has very tight fluid regulation, but inflammation can break down these barriers, allowing excess fluid to seep in and put pressure on neurons. Compounds like the potassium found in bananas and the lycopene found in watermelon, yes, it's a fruit, act as osmoregulators. They help balance sodium levels and support the kidney's ability to manage fluid, which indirectly reduces pressure in the cranial vault. More directly, the anti-inflammatory action of flavonoids helps tighten the blood-brain barrier, preventing that leaky, foggy feeling. You aren't just clearing your head metaphorically, you are physically reducing the pressure on your neurons. 3. Mitochondrial biogenesis. Power plant production. Your neurons are energy gluttons. They demand massive amounts of ATP, energy, to fire and communicate. The power plants inside each cell are the mitochondria. As we age, our mitochondria become fewer and less efficient. This is an energy crisis at the cellular level. When a neuron doesn't have enough energy, it cannot fire. It goes silent. Certain fruits, specifically those with high concentrations of ellagic acid like raspberries, blackberries, and pomegranates, have been shown to activate a pathway called AMPK. AMPK is the cell's master energy sensor. When activated by these compounds, it sends a signal to the cell to build new mitochondria, a process called mitochondrial biogenesis. You are literally instructing your aging brain cells to build more power plants. More power plants mean more energy. More energy means faster processing speed and clearer thinking. 2. Synaptic plasticity enhancement. Rewiring the circuit. This is where things get really exciting. It's not enough to just protect neurons. We need them to be able to change. Synaptic plasticity is the brain's ability to rewire itself, to form new connections between neurons in response to learning or experience. This is the physical basis of memory. If a neuron cannot form a new connection, you cannot lay down a new memory. The flavonoids in berries, particularly ficetine, found in strawberries, and the anthocyanins in blueberries, have been shown in neurological research to activate the ERK pathway. This is a signaling cascade inside the neuron that leads to the creation of new synaptic connections. These compounds don't just protect the old roads. They actively pave new ones. They make your brain more malleable, more capable of adapting, more able to learn. They keep the brain youthful not because they stop aging, but because they maintain the brain's fundamental ability to change. 1. The master regulator, BDNF upregulation. And now we arrive at number 1. The climax, the real secret that ties everything together. You can protect your blood vessels, clear out your cellular trash, and even build new mitochondria. But if you don't have brain-derived neurotrophic factor, none of it matters as much. BDNF is the master molecule. It is the growth factor that supports the survival of existing neurons and encourages the growth and differentiation of new neurons and synapses. Low levels of BDNF are directly correlated with cognitive decline, depression, and Alzheimer's disease. This is the philosophical and scientific climax. When my neurologist friend spoke about giving the brain a language, this is what he meant. The compounds in these specific fruits, the deep purples of the blackberry, the vibrant red of the pomegranate aril, the sunshine yellow of the banana, they are not just nutrients. They are signals. They travel through your bloodstream, cross the blood-brain barrier, and knock on the door of your DNA. They specifically interact with genetic machinery to upregulate the transcription of the BDNF gene. They tell your brain, grow, connect, thrive. The method matters more than the substance. It's not about the fruit as a commodity. It's about the fruit as a messenger. The ritual of eating these fruits, the daily act of consuming these pigments, is a conversation with your genome. You are telling your cells, we are in an environment of abundance and safety. We can afford to grow. We can afford to repair. This is why number 1 is BDNF. Because without that growth signal, all the protection in the world just delays the inevitable. With BDNF, you are actively cultivating a landscape of resilience. You are not just slowing the decline, you are fertilizing the garden. So how do we do this practically? This is not about complicated smoothies or expensive powders. It is about consistency and variety. Aim to eat 3 to 4 servings of these deeply pigmented fruits per day. A serving is about half a cup to a full cup. Rotate them. Don't eat the same blueberry every day. On Monday, have a banana with your breakfast. On Tuesday, have a handful of blueberries and strawberries. On Wednesday, eat an apple with the skin on. Thursday, have half a pomegranate. Friday, grab some blackberries. The goal is to hit a wide spectrum of these polyphenolic compounds. Eat them with the skin when possible, as the highest concentration of flavonoids is often in the peel. If you are concerned about pesticides, buy the Clean 15 or Dirty Dozen in mind, but do not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. A conventionally grown blueberry is infinitely better for your brain than no blueberry at all. Chew them thoroughly. The initial breakdown in your mouth, the cephalic phase of digestion, begins to release these compounds and also signals your gut to prepare for absorption. Now, We must discuss safety with the gravity it deserves. While fruit is whole food, it is potent medicine for certain physiologies. First, if you have chronic kidney disease, particularly if you are on dialysis or have been told to watch your potassium levels, you must be extremely cautious with high potassium fruits like bananas and even certain berries. Consult your nephrologist before increasing your intake. Second, if you are on blood thinners like warfarin, Coumadin, you need to be consistent with your intake of vitamin K-rich fruits, like kiwi fruit and certain berries. It's not that you can't eat them, it's that you must eat a consistent amount so your medication levels remain stable. Do not suddenly double your fruit intake without informing your doctor and monitoring your INR levels. Third, for those with diabetes or insulin resistance, while the fiber in whole fruit blunts the sugar spike, the sugar is still there. Monitor your blood sugar. Focus on lower glycemic options like berries and green apples. Pair fruit with a fat or protein source, like a few almonds or a slice of cheese, to slow glucose absorption even further. If you have a history of oxalate kidney stones, be mindful of high oxalate fruits like star fruit, which should be avoided entirely in kidney disease, and raspberries in very high quantities. Moderation is key. And finally, listen to your body. If you eat a certain fruit and notice digestive distress, skin reactions, or a feeling of mental fog, your body is telling you something. That particular compound may not be for you. There is no one-size-fits-all. I want to leave you with a question for the comments. I'd love to know, of all the fruits we talked about today, which one do you already eat regularly, and which one are you most curious to try adding to your routine? Just type it in the comments below. Your answers help build a community of learning, and I read every single one. If you found value in this deeper look at the physiology of food, please consider subscribing. I don't post content that just skims the surface. We go deep here because your health deserves that depth. And finally, a philosophical thought to carry with you. We live in a culture obsessed with the new drug, the new surgery, the new intervention that will save us. But salvation in the context of aging is rarely found in the dramatic. It is found in the mundane. It is found in the daily ritual of choosing a blackberry over a cracker. It is found in the quiet conversation you have with your cells every time you sit down to eat. You are not just feeding a body. You are sending a message to every neuron, every vessel, every mitochondria. You are telling them they are worth maintaining. You are telling them they are worth growing. And that message, repeated daily, is the most powerful medicine of all. Take care of yourselves. This response is AI generated, for reference only.